going back to that comment that she made about walking dildos, etc. It's funny and it's shocking for
Yes.
people to hear, but also the President of the United States just said, grab her by the pussy.
You're listening to The Big Drill.
And here we are on The Big Drill, Zoom Big Drill.
Welcome to The Big Drill, everyone. As you can see, we have a guest, first time ever on a Zoom meeting. Her name is Eve Perry,
Hello.
a feminist amongst many.
That's right.
Please introduce yourself, Eve. Tell us a bit about you.
I'm Eve. What is there to know about me? I work in TV and film, and I think that when it comes to feminism and working in TV and film, there's a lot to talk about in regards to how women are treated in film and TV, and also how women are treated in general. And there's lots of new films and programs and stuff coming out about it. So, you know, it's a pretty good industry to work in when you've got so many views.
Excellent.
And I can't wait to hear the views. Sorry, Will, go on.
I've already got some questions straight away, which is fantastic.
Well, the first question before we get into it is, what do you consider feminism being? Because there's a textbook definition, but in your view, what would you say it is?
Oh, big question to start with.
Yes.
Feminism, to me personally, I think there are lots of different views on it, but to me, feminism is to do with creating equality between men and women in every circumstance in life, and also being able to work together, both men and women, or otherwise, however you identify. And I think that right now, with the Me Too movement and a lot of Time's Up and things like that, it's becoming very, very relevant. And there's always been patriarchy is something that everyone has to just accept exists. It very much runs the world, and we're trying so that we can become equal. It's not to me, it's not a matter of women trying to become like the matriarchy. I love that there is a matriarchy as well, but I think that it's not women trying to overcome men. I think we still got so far to go if men are sort of still regarded sort of up here on the scale of equality, and then bringing that, 20% pay gap, etc. We're still trying to make it equal. And I think that a lot of people would argue, a lot of women would say, oh no, but it's our turn to fight back, it's our turn to put men down for what they're wearing, we'll put them down for how much body hair they have or something like that, we'll give them 20% less. And I'm like, no guys, let's bring it to an equal playing field, then we can discuss what happens next. Let's get here first before we talk about different balances. And we've got a long way to go. I don't think I'll ever see true equality in my lifetime, but hopefully it will carry on. And I'm only 24, so we've got a long way to go.
There is. Will, you had a question?
Well, I mean, just to kind of reflect on what you said there, Eve, I think it's really interesting point about the kind of like, I guess, I know I've been training clients, an eclectic range of clients over the years, and I have had the honour of training strong, powerful women that are fighting for the rights towards equality, and which I, of course, I'm wholeheartedly am in their corner. And I do find like sometimes you do have, and you brought it up really well there actually, some people that kind of want to go, they want to almost like reverse it, and they almost want to kind of create a rebound effect in order to assume some sort of power position. And for me, that kind of like, it goes against the whole ethos of what equality is. And if a feminist is working towards equality, then it's almost like they go towards a point and then they tip the scales and become exactly what they did want to be, but for the opposite gender.
Mm.
And like, for me, when I have, when you see, like, I mean, that a job is a job. If a woman can do it, or a man can do it, the person that does the job gets paid to do the job equally, and also gets hired to do the job. And I think, like, in some cases, there's this kind of like, well, that person shouldn't be doing that because there's already too many men. Or conversely, what happens if it was a guy that wanted to go into a role that was female dominated? Well, you know, he shouldn't be given the job based on because there's just not enough men doing the job. It should be on credit or ability to do the job. I just found it very interesting point that you made straight away on the fact that you get that kind of the rebound of where people try and go above and beyond and create exactly what they're fighting against, almost, if that makes sense. But yeah, no, I found it very interesting.
I think it's from a female point of view. There are a lot of people out there, and I don't deny that I have felt this a fair few times, where I've sort of just gone, fuck, like, excuse my language, but fuck that, you know, and I want to, and it almost becomes a revenge sort of plot.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people who are fighting for equality can also become misconstrued for I want revenge on the whole of on all males. You know, what I want is it's brilliant because how dare they say that I can't do something, and I would try my hardest to do it, but sometimes I can't physically do it because I don't have the muscle power, or I don't have. I wholeheartedly believe that a person should get the job because they are the best at the job, and it shouldn't be to do with gender. However, due to the environment that we live in now, and due to everyone being very aware of inequality, people then hire people for their gender, for their race, for, you know, something like that. So, for example, I was hired to work on a TV show, and they had a full male team. And I was in the running with another person who I know is very, very good at their job, and he was a man. I got the job because they needed a woman on the team, because otherwise it would be seen as something that, you know, isn't right. And I was like, fair enough, that's fine by me because I got a job and I need a job.
Is that how does that actually, like, just pause for a second there. I'm gonna be quite not brutal but quite
go for it, man.
critical in, like, because of how I would probably feel in that situation, but I just want to find out, actually, genuinely, if you've just been given a job, you needed a job, absolutely, and at the end of the day, money coming in, roof over head, food on the table, I get that, but you've just been given a job that they didn't really want to give you, but they kind of had to give you.
I mean, they didn't. I'm good at my job. So, like, I'm good at what I do. I've been doing it for a while, and I know that I have the same skill set. But I also know that if I knew that the whole, and I knew going in, they've never said this to me. Of course, they wouldn't say it. You know, they wouldn't say that out loud. No one would admit it. But it's all a thing that we know happens. When I was doing the interview, and I knew the other candidate, and I knew that there were, I think, 3 other men interviewing, and then me. I was like, "You've got a full male team." I could say, I was like, "I'm pretty sure I'm probably going to get the job because you need a woman on your team. Otherwise," also, this job in particular is for a TV show that's coming out in about a year, and it's very, very heavily, like, feminist dominated, and to have a full male crew, they would get a lot of criticism for that. And they were avoiding criticism, I think, by giving me the job. But also, I'm good at my job. Maybe they gave it to me on merit. But I had a feeling, and I always have this feeling going into interviews, that I'm like, but if it's a full female crew, then it's another thing. You don't really know, because I've worked with full female crews before, and then it's a level playing field, because generally females don't feel guilty in that sense that if you've got a full female crew, they're not going to hire a guy because they need a guy in there, Yeah. So if you've got a full male crew, they're probably going to hire a woman because they're like, oh no, but we are really equal on this team. I'm like, you've got one woman on your team. That doesn't say anything about you guys. Just hire people because they're good at their job. And I believe that I was hired because I'm good at my job, but also I believe I had an advantage by being a woman, which is great, because usually, 20 years ago, that wouldn't have been a thing.
It's progress in the way I look at that. So, by the way, I wasn't saying you aren't good at your job in any way, shape, or form.
No, I didn't think so.
She is good at her job.
I know, I don't doubt that for a second. But it's always like, for me, that is progress, because, like, so if I think about, like, from a psychological point of view, like behaviour change, so if you think about, if you have someone who wants to change behaviour, before behaviour can change, there always has to be this, like, contemplation stage, pre-contemplation, into contemplation, then you actually start making some actionable changes, right? So that's in one person's behaviour. But before that, there needs to be, like, a sense of acknowledgement and a raising of that person's awareness, self-awareness, that something has to actually change. So if you have one person and then you actually times that by a whole society, a whole demographic of people within a particular industry, or or a region or a country or whatever, you've actually now got to get everyone on board being aware of this situation is wrong. And then once they're aware of it, you've actually got to make them kind of contemplate making a change to it. Then you've got to get them to make actionable changes. And this is to your point about, like, you made a really good point, actually, again, and just reflect back on that, how you don't believe you will necessarily see it in your lifetime, the true change, societal changes that really should happen and kind of, like, progress. Because the way I see it, although there are a lot of progressive forward thinkers across genders, across those that identify however they choose to identify, you do have a lot of this kind of it's almost like, despite the fact there's still this progressive movement, there is still a huge anchor weighing back the momentum or the magnitude of change that could really be beneficial to society, right? That equality could really bring around some real good benefits. So yeah, I find that quite an interesting kind of point with your like, how long it takes for actual change to happen and over the periods of time. But it does show there's progress, right?
Yeah, I think, I mean, in the past 10 years, I would only say the past 10 years, we're starting to make actual progress. Everyone was talking about it probably from the 60s onwards, and then real progress has come in sort of the last 10 years. You can look back over, I mean, I still do this. I look back over films that came out in 2005 or 2010, and I see women represented in a certain way that you would not be able to get away with.
Sure.
Now. It's like looking back and watching a lot of like Little Britain sketches, and you go, whoa.
Yeah.
No, that's not okay now, because in the last 10 years we've sped up a bit, and we've made a lot more progress. I see it happening. And then I also see a huge resistance to it, because change is scary, right? Everyone's scared of change. And the patriarchy has been something that has been in place since the beginning of, natural civilization. And I think that it was always based on hunter-gatherer, and then the sort of mothering side of things. And that's just something that happened. And now women, and hopefully everyone else is starting to realize that actually you can make these changes. You can have a choice on whether you want to have children, or whether you want to be you want to be a heavyweight boxing champion as a woman, or you want to change or break a mold. And we're starting to break this female molds that we have been forced into for the last however long. And even women are finding it difficult to change as well. I'm not just saying that it's like something that only men have to think about, because women have to think about it too. There's lots of things that we do subconsciously that I catch myself doing it, and I go, hang on, why am I doing this? You know?
Is there an example?
Well,
Sorry.
Coming down to this is something that I think every woman will be able to relate to. Coming down to body hair, certain standards that men have given us through many different forms of media on how a woman is supposed to look, hair and stuff. I shave my armpits because I'm like, because my brain goes, oh god, that's a bit gross, isn't it? Like if I'm at the gym and I'm wearing a sports bra and I lift my arms up and I'm like, oh god, don't look at that, because that's how I've been told to think my whole life. And you know, and I'm like, but we have body hair there for a reason. It's there. It's there for a reason. It's there for hygiene purposes. So why am I getting rid of it? Because I've been told to. Because I've grown up knowing this. Because many, but also it comes towards capitalism as well, and how like razor companies have raised tax on female razors, so ours are more expensive than men's, because men also need to be clean shaven in the army or clean shaven at certain types of work, and you're not allowed to have. I'm not saying that it's just for women, these body standards, but body standards generally are put in a sort of weird goal that, you know, isn't attainable by everyone. And I think it's the same, of course, with men being told that they have to have like an Adonis body and have six packs all the time and big arms or whatever. And then the dad bod is coming in now, and that's something that's some people are starting to like in the last 5 years. People are like,
the child to have a dad bod? I'm not sure that is that a prerequisite.
loads of my friends have just been like, I much prefer a dad bod, because it makes them feel like they don't have to work as hard.
Right.
Fair
And
point.
I'm like, that's okay. But I do feel like in the last 10 years, I have seen a huge change. And that's in the last 10 years, you know, since I was like 14, I've always been someone who's been very much my own person and very resilient when it comes to being told what to do, which in some circumstances isn't great. But in other circumstances, if I'm told to do something, I will get more angry if a man is telling me to do something, because I will instinctively go, no, fuck off, actually. And sometimes the man is telling me to do something that is genuinely helpful.
Yeah.
But the sort of the revenge feminist in me goes, fuck you. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that for you. And then I'll go off and do something subconsciously, which has been put into my brain, like go and shave my armpits. And I'm like, oh,
I think,
well, slightly hypocritical there, aren't I?
but the point you made about that kind of like like social conditioning, like or operant conditioning, if you will, where and maybe even a mixture of the both, which are what's sociologically perceived as a particular look or a particular action for a female or a male, but in obviously, you know, in the case where you described, it's like you're expected to action shaving your armpits, and if you don't, then there is or shaving your legs, you know, that kind of like keeping on top of your body hair, so to speak. And there is this kind of tone, if you will, this kind of expectation that's placed, which is if you don't, you will be like almost almost ostracized, if you will. You know, is an extreme kind of like measure where it's almost like kind of oh well 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 to these conditioned kind of aspects is because you have a fear of not necessarily being part of a social group.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really powerful thing, which
is used as a tool of consumerism. We buy shit because we think we need to buy it to fit into a group. And that's that consumerism, capitalism is it's what's grown and given a society and economy. That's fine. I'm not disagreeing with that. But it also puts a lot of pressure on females to look a certain way, buy certain products, and when all you've got to look at is like I walk into Boots, whatever, Superdrug, whatever, you walk in there and you've got a shit ton of makeup, and I'm like, what is all this?
I'm going to be honest with you. It's one of those situations where it's like,
it's not just that. It's the amount of different shades and colors, and I'm just like,
which is
how are you?
Like that's also a good thing. Different shades of foundation, going through all ranges of colors, because there are so many different.
And I'm just like, whoa. How are you even supposed to know?
But people, they want you to buy it. They want you to buy it. They want you to think, oh, I need to have. I'm probably going to be wildly inaccurate here. Please don't. But they probably want you to have this shade for your lips and that shade for your cheek and a bit under your eye and all that. And they want you to have all that, because what they've done is they've plastered around everywhere where you look this image of someone which has all that. And for whatever reason, it is perceived that person is an attainable person, and secondly, a desirable, which are two things that have been told. Yes, it's attainable, and yes, it's desirable. You need to go out and buy that. You need to go and shave your armpits. You need to go do whatever. And that is a very strong message that if that was broken down and reversed, there would be a lot of money lost by a lot of companies.
Oh, a hell of a lot. The best thing for capitalism is to focus on a majority target audience and be like, hey, here's your goal we're going to set for you. Because
make them insecure.
Yeah, no, that's
the best way.
It's really easy to do that. Yeah. It's really easy to do that to everyone, especially when we are plastered 24/7 by advertising, by social media. The fact that, bloggers and influencers is a job now that you can do and earn a lot of money for. I'm not saying that bloggers and influencers aren't great, but I talk about this quite a lot on my own Instagram, and I in a comedic way, I did one yesterday and I just said, stop telling me how to live my best life during a fucking pandemic. You've never been in a fucking pandemic. Stop telling me I need to do home workout every day. Stop telling me I need to run 5K. Stop challenging me to run 5K.
No, seriously.
Just let me live my life.
Eve, I just want to touch on... Can I just touch on... You mentioned the revenge feminist inside you that sometimes comes out. And when I was doing a bit of research here and there, they called it a radical feminist, and it's quite a thing, because innately we're quite tribal, so we like to belong in groups. And obviously you've got one group who's like defending their ideology of, which I agree with, you gotta have equal rights for women and men, and then you've got the other group who are defending themselves, going, they're resisting that movement. And I think it's that we need to focus on, rather than the woman versus man, because you get it with race, you get it with religion, you get it with country. Like, there's always a group you belong to, and that you have to defend yourself against someone else. I just want to share this because it was hilarious. Valerie Solanas, I hope I pronounced it. The first thing I found when I was researching radical feminism, she said, to call a man an animal is to flatter him. He's a machine, a walking dildo. And that's it. And it's like that. Will is very offended.
Sorry, was that a stand-up? Was that a stand-up comedy, or was that a genuine comment?
This was in an article. Yeah.
Brilliant.
So,
yeah.
And I think the issue now being caused is not the ideology. I think most people, I would hope, would agree having equal rights for everyone is pretty damn good, and we should have it. I think the issue we're having now is we're putting ourselves into different groups and we're resisting each other because we feel stronger being in this group, therefore we can't allow that group to weaken us.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think going back to that comment that she made about walking dildos, etc., it's funny and it's shocking for people to hear, but also the president of the United States just said, grab her by the pussy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like women have been objectified for years. I have been objectified by men so often. I have been told countless things that are disgusting, and sometimes I'm a bit like, yeah, you know, like I don't deny that sometimes I'll hear this fucking ridiculous comment said to me and I'm just like, thanks. But also we have been objectified and sort of been called like walking baby ovens forever. So hearing someone say a walking dildo is literally just turning some of it on its head. So sometimes we'd be like, yeah, cool. But also I know like a lot of feminazis, as I call them, and you know, is that will sort of go, no, this is it. We have to dominate the men, and we have to get on top. We have to do everything that patriarchy is doing to us. And that's where I have to go, I hear you as a fellow sister. I understand where you're coming from. But first of all, let's just get to that point where we would even have the power to be able to do that. It's amazing watching women who are, the thing is I say, and this is no offense to men, but I'm like, guys, come on, let's just be really logical about this and a bit sneaky, and then at one point we'll do it without hurting anyone, and the men will turn around and be like, oh, is this a matriarchy? And then we'll be like, yeah, and you're enjoying it, so just why don't we keep it this way? I'm not saying that women have to have 20% extra pay. Just give us the same amount of pay. If you look at the comparisons between the highest paid actor and the highest paid actress in the world, it's a huge difference.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable how that can happen, because it's so easy to exploit women, and you see women exploiting women as well. There's a reason that, you know, a lot of people that work in advertising will just be like, there's a reason why the packaging of men's razors is like dark blue Gillette blade, and then the packaging for women's razors is like Venus flowers, and you're like, that works. It still works. But what I want is for everyone to be aware that this is happening, because a lot of people will deny, and often a lot of men will deny that any of this is happening, and I'm like, because you haven't been subjected to it, because you haven't been told that you should wear a pretty dress, or you should, why don't you go buy yourself something nice? And I'm like, I look nice, I'm fine. There's a reason why I came on this Zoom, and the first thing that I thought of was like, oh, I should probably put a bit of slap on, maybe I should put a bit of makeup on. And I was like, no, that defeats the point. I'm on here, I wouldn't put makeup on during the day because I'm in my room, in my bed. I get makeup all over the sheets, don't want that. Why should I have to put makeup on because I'm being seen by everyone who listens or watches the podcast? You know, it's things that we need to not be taking revenge. We need to not be going out and hating on every single man or whatever. We need to get the word out that this is happening in the world, that we are being objectified, that we are subject to oppression as women just by being women. And there are a lot of people that would disagree with me. There are a lot of people that would be like, Eve, you're letting people off too much, or you're letting them get away with so much. I do not let people get away with being sexist, ever. And I will point it out, and I will say it loud and proud if I see it in a workplace, or if I see it, even coming out of like my dad's mouth, or something that like my grandpa might say, and I'm just like, stop right there. Let's just come on now. And I'll point it out. And I think that thing is that we have always been told, and I will always agree with this, a lot of people think that feminists are aggressive and that feminists are loudmouthed and shouty, and they will say, they will just shout and scream at you until you listen. No, there are people that do that because they believe that that's the best way to get it across. I just believe that we just have to, women have been told to be quiet and be pretty since the dawn of time. And now we're not being quiet anymore. That doesn't make us hysterical. That doesn't make us shouty. We're just saying what we believe because you guys have had your time to do it. We're going to try doing it as well now.
I think I like, I completely agree, of course, with the, the point you made about if like a family member or someone that mentions something or says something in a sexist or like a misogynistic manner, and I stand in rooms sometimes, and I hear stuff, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I was like, did you seriously just say that? And it's just like, but then I don't want to become. I'm not going to say I'm like, like gleamingly, like fallible. So I'm not. I mean, I am also human. I do, because of the way I've been conditioned. I do say something sometimes. I think, oh yeah, shit. Actually, I see how that could have come across. But I think what is a key factor that I find across generations, and I'm going to say it because I've got a lot of respect for the elder generation. They've done a lot of work. They've also fucked a lot of things up along the way. But you can't be, again, all humans. One thing that that I have come to realise, I was in a previous relationship actually, and her grandfather was a lovely man, very proud man of his family and everything like that. But oh my gosh, he was misogynistic. And some of the things that he used to come out and say, I said to him, I won't say his name, just in case someone's listening who knows, I don't know, but they might be. I used to say, look, Johnny, everyone's called Johnny, by the way. I don't know if you listen to the podcast.
Here we go, another Johnny.
Johnny. I said, Johnny, you can't say that. And they'd be like, well, why not? And I'd be like, it's just not appropriate to say those kind of things. It's not fair to say those kind of things. But there's this cognitive dissonance that resolves within an elder generation, and I mean like 70s, possibly, not the generation above me, the generation above that, and they kind of have this like almost belief that the world is exactly how it was when they were in their 20s or 30s, and they just press pause on the world and then they carried on getting old. And it's just like, no, it's evolution of society, of human species, of kind of like appreciation. And I do think that and this is going to sound really bullish, but as those generations die off, that anchor that's holding back that change will start to depreciate more. And I know that sounds harsh because obviously you don't want people to die. I'm not saying that, of course not. But that is a mentality that resides within society and the patriarch, because the patriarch are that double generation up, right? It's a concept that will die with them.
Yeah.
But it will hang around all the time they're hanging around. That's how
I would love it if that does end up becoming the case. However, I catch my friends saying stuff all the time and they know that they're wrong for saying that. But how many times have you known that you're wrong, but you feel bad about it? So what you do is you carry on fighting it and carry on doing it just to prove a point.
Self-validation. Well, yeah.
Is there a difference between saying it as a bunch of friends in a jokey way than saying it to a complete stranger in a professional environment?
This is something that comes up, I think, a lot when I speak about feminism to to people who aren't like within my friendship group. I will still argue with a lot of my friends about the way that they talk and about what they say. But if my mate cracks a, oh, well, you know, get in the kitchen then kind of joke, I'll just be like, haha, shut up, you know, but I won't jump down their throat. But if someone because you have a rapport with someone, right? But if a stranger came up to me and just went, well, you better get back to the kitchen, I'm like, how do you know for even a second that you're allowed to speak to me like that? How do you know what kind of rapport do we have which makes you think that this is okay for you to say? Why don't you get in the kitchen and make yourself like, we're not that close, we can't make jokes like that? Because I will say the most awful things back to my guy friends as well. You know, like I will say things like, well, you know, men are just walking dildos.
There's a new one for you.
And that I'm going to use that all the time. But you know, but I'll always say it as a joke because obviously I don't believe that. One, because they're warmer than dildos. But you know, if men are walking dildos, you're going to want to be fucking a dead body. I'm just saying. Anyway, you know, but also there's certain things that I think, and this comes back to sort of the feminists who are very strict, etc. Because a lot of the time, if you're in a group of friends like that, you don't make jokes like that. I know a lot of people, a lot of fantastic women who do have certain views, and I won't, you know, I guess I'm more liberal with my feminism or something. But what I'm saying is, and I think this is down to it, if a guy's going to smack my ass and open the door for me, I want to be able to open the door and smack his ass. You know, like that's what I want. I want to go, I just want equality for everyone. That's what I want. And I think we have to fight really hard for it as women, and we have to keep clawing our way up. But I think there's so many also words that people use to describe women, and I think it's talked about a lot, you know, bossy, as opposed to if you're a man you'd probably be determined, or if you're, you know, hysterical. With a man you'd be forward thinking, and it's like I catch myself doing stuff like that all the time, and I think that I think it's just people just need to accept that equality is something that most people are striving for here, and the minority of people who want it to be the old ways are either, like you said, are going to die, or they're just going to have to get used to the change and be, because there are a lot of women who want to stay the same. There are a lot of women who would prefer to be subservient, or, you know, be housewives. If that's what you want, then that's fine, but please recognize that a lot of women don't want that, and just be okay with women for fighting for it, and be okay with it, because the more that it's resisted, the harder we have to fight, and the more drastic we have to be in the way that we talk, in the way that, you know, if it gets to a point where I'm literally turning around to my friends and I'm like, don't make those jokes ever. You know, some of my male friends have made jokes to me, and I've gone, right, okay, this is where we have to have a conversation, because the way you're speaking, I really, really hope you don't speak to people you don't know like that. In many cases, they're like, no, of course not. And I'm like, just watch what you say in a professional environment, in any environment. Watch what you say.
I mean, there's a case of like ignorance and malice, right? So like to your point there, you're having a conversation with your friend, and they say something which is bang out of line, and you put them to one side and you go, hey, you know, do you realise what that is? Because what you said there, because you need to know, because you go out on a wider audience and say that, people are going to think you're an absolute shithead. So are you aware of that? And if they're like, no, sorry, I'm not aware of that. You know, there's this kind of like, okay, ignorance, which with ignorance, I've kind of got this like mentality of like, once is a mistake, twice is a piss take. So once you're not ignorant anymore, then we're into a different ballpark. And if you repeat the same thing, then it becomes malicious.
Yeah.
And as soon as it's malicious, then you got to cut that person down, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I've had a lot of conversations, and I don't mind. The thing is I don't mind having these conversations. A lot of people will be like, I'm not having this conversation again. It's something that everyone should just know. And no, not everyone just knows it. You learn things through through asking questions. So I think I had a conversation with my friend, and he said something that was misogynistic, but he didn't really realize that he'd said something like that, because he came from he had a traditional family, and that's how he's sort of been brought up. And then he said something, and I went, you shouldn't be saying something like that. And he said, why? And I said, well, this is the reason, blah blah blah. And we spoke about feminism, we spoke about the history of feminism, we spoke about how it's really important right now that we all start to learn. And then he said, why? And I said, because we're going to have some change here, because women are being given so many amazing opportunities and so many platforms in order to speak and grow and make and become equal. This is great. And now he looked up a lot of stuff, he's changed a lot of his views, and he's been okay with changing. I think what the whole world, women and men alike, have to be okay with change. And it's really, really hard for people to change. It's really hard for people to sit back and go, it's really hard to admit to yourself that, oh, maybe I did say something bad then. And it's really hard to be like, okay, yeah, I haven't been a feminist, I haven't been speaking properly about women, or I remember saying that one thing. I've sat back and I've said things before, and I've done things before where I'm like, what? How did I do that? And it took me a lot of time to admit that I was like, I have been, I've been brainwashed a lot. I'm still, am by capitalism, by the patriarchy, by, again, and other women who are on social media telling you that you should look like this and you should have abs like this. And it's like, that's not my body type. I'm not going to be like that. I will do this for my health if I'm, because I want to do it. But I think we all have to be ready and accepting of change. And that is so hard for humans to be okay with. It's so hard. And I think that I have seen regression as well. We're sort of like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. At least we're creeping forward. And that's why I don't think I'll ever see equality in my lifetime.
I'm sorry, can I just follow up on, so you mentioned doing it with friends, having conversations with friends about it. You also mentioned that you're the one female in an all-male crew. Has there been moments where people have made sexist comments or actions without them knowing, and what men should watch out for in the workplace that they should not be doing? Yeah,
I've had I think I've had many confrontations with people, and I've had things where I've sort of I've been expected to do something, and I'm like, why do you think that I should be doing that? Why can't you get him to do that? Or something, things like that. But then also I've said, it comes down to, in the workplace, I think that as a general rule, everyone just needs to think before they speak about anything at work. That's just a thing, right? Even if you're the boss, even if you're, I think that you should process before you speak, because freedom of speech, whatever, yeah, you have freedom of speech, but you don't have. Well, why are you hurting people by saying?
Yeah, you don't have to be a dick.
Yeah, you don't have to be a dickhead, right? But it also comes down to things like, I think a lot of the things that I experience within my industry is to do with sexual assault, and to do with people, like a lot of men thinking that they have the right to touch you or to do something like that. I had an experience where someone tried to kiss me on set, and I was like, what the fuck do you think you're doing? I worked in a pub, and I had a really awful experience with the manager, called the police, all of these things. You ask any of your girlfriends, any of them, have you ever been sexually assaulted or groped on a bus? Pretty much 3 out of 4 of them will be like, yeah, of course. Since I was 13, I've been touched up on a bus, or I've been, I've had this, but we don't really report it because it's so frequent. And that's something that I'm starting to realize only now is really fucked up, is that we can't, but also I have spoken to my guy friends, and I I was on, sorry, this is a bit of a tangent, but I was on a date, a first date from one of the various sites, and he said, if I was in a club and someone groped me, I'd thank them. And I was like, huh? What? I was like, that's fucked up, dude. That's really fucked up, because as a woman, I have been groped in a club. I have had multiple gropes in one night in a club. And I've been like, what the fuck? I have fought people because of this. I've had a lot of blokes stand up and fight for me. I've had a lot of blokes hold me back as well from going in at people because I don't stand for it. But the...
Have a second date with this guy, even.
Oh, fuck. Blocked. Before I verbally abused him, I verbally abused him and then I just blocked him. But it was disgusting. But I was also just, you know, it's so funny. It's just something like that. And in sexual assault in the workplace, in my industry, unfortunately, I believe the film industry is about 20 years backwards. You know, there's lots of people who will still, it's you know, a lot of girls will be like, I'll just use my feminine charm. And I'm like, hell yeah, do it if you want to, you know, because it's easy to manipulate. But that's manipulative. So if that's what you're going to do, then you're going to do it. And there are lots of men out there who will also, like the whole, like Weinstein. He didn't get caught for ages because it's only become a thing recently that it's okay for us to speak out and for us to say, this man did something revolting. This man forced me to have sex with him so that I get this part in a film or something like that. You know, it's only now becoming a thing. And it's really weird. And I think in my industry, I've had a lot of people smack my ass or make comments about me when I'm just talking about myself, and they'll be like, oh, that's a bit slutty. And I'm like, okay, now we'll talk about slut shaming. Fine. And I will have those conversations at work very freely, very openly. And I will go to HR and I will report them all the time. And because finally people are recognizing that this is a serious thing. And I've had, ask any of your friends, multiple occasions. I mean, especially, I guess for you guys as well, working in a gym. You know, there's a lot of times that women will sort of be seen as, you know, they'll be like, she's got a nice ass. But also, I'll look at women as well and be like, she's got a nice ass. So, I don't know. There's just, I think in the workplace, just remember what environment you're in. You're not in the 50s anymore. Think before you speak. If you think that person is pretty and you want to tell them, why don't you tell them in, you know, at the pub afterwards, and you'll be like, hey, you know what? Like, no, I'm not saying this in a way that, you know, I don't want you to insinuate anything of me. I just really think you're beautiful. Thanks. But don't come up to me at work and be like, you're peng.
I didn't think what that word meant a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
But no, I had to teach Will a few words.
I mean, in the workplace, it is one of those situations where you do. It's inevitable that you're going to have an attraction or another human being. You know, it could be a you know, your opposite genders. It could be the same gender, whatever. It's in that sense, a human attraction to another human is going to happen in the workplace. That's actually really good, I think, because a lot of people meet people at work and they kind of have beautiful relationships and families and so on and so forth. But I think what you were saying there is really important, is how do you communicate that? And I think that what we've got a problem with is that people are shit at communication. They're not great at communication. Hands up, over the last 3 years, I've had counselling, I've gone through various, you know, like parts of my life, gone back over it and realised that I'm actually very good at communicating in some areas, and in other areas I'm really bad at communicating. I have to work really hard to communicate well. But what that doesn't do is that doesn't give me the excuse to go like, be unkind or inappropriate or make someone else feel uncomfortable because of that. So it's in that sense whereby, what you said earlier, stop, think, process. How am I going to say this? What's the most appropriate way of saying this? And obviously, where's the most appropriate? Now, obviously, you can't always get the opportunity. Like sometimes it's not, you're not going to be down the pub or whatever with somebody you work with. That's not where you go to socialise with them. But there is still a way in which you can put your message across, and it can start as a very kind word of acknowledgement rather than a prodding, leering like comment. And that I'm not saying it's of course it's I've got no doubt that those comments are very heavily made by males, but there is
women make them all the time,
yeah,
and it is accepted that women make those comments. And sometimes I'm just like, guys, you can go up to a guy and be like, "Wow, you're fit," and then like loads of guys will be like, "Wow, she's confident in saying that." But this isn't feminism anymore. This is just being a professional.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I think that can definitely form a workplace situation. There should be things in place where the ability for professionalism or communication to be learnt or a managed skill that someone becomes better at. I think actually, especially some workplaces, probably more than others, to be like ignoring how people communicate within a workplace. Like if a manager overhears two colleagues talking in a certain way and it's actually not professional, or it's the manager's job to step in and go, we need to have a conversation about how you just communicated there as an employee in this domain. It's not appropriate. But so many, like from a managerial point of view, they just don't have those conversations, and it's whether it's because they lack the skills themselves or the confidence to actually manage. I don't know, but communication is so important.
But I think as well that with the whole, if you overhear let's say two men are talking about one of the ladies in the office or something, and they're saying some inappropriate things about her, and the manager overhears that, does that manager, if it's a woman, I believe that person, that manager would go straight to HR and say something, be like, you can't talk about women like that. And I'd really hope that that's how a woman would act. But also, like, I want to make it very clear to all men, it's okay to report your other dudes. It's okay to say these people were talking inappropriately, because you shouldn't be creating friendships or bonds with, because there's a lot of this, like, bros before hoes, romance, like all of this stuff that goes on. And I think that a lot of people, and in the workplace as well, I think a lot of men think that they're like betraying their fellow man if they report them for saying something about a woman, and then suddenly another person comes up to them and is like what's your problem? Do you want to fuck her then? And it's like, no, you're just being a professional in an environment. Please just be okay with it. It's just, I think it's just interesting how we sort of create standards, and there's a lot of standards for men and a lot of standards for women, and I think that often it's a huge grey area, I think, a lot of the time.
Yes, I agree with that.
Because there's a lot of people who say things in a certain way and someone else misinterprets it, and then they're like, that's really offensive, and people are like, I was just joking. And you go, but that's when you have to stop and realize how that person might not have found it a joke because of a past trauma they have, or because of, like, the way that they communicate. And I think you're right. I think communication is something that we all struggle with because we're all different, and it's really difficult a lot of the time to get your opinions across. And there are a lot of people out there who I've just gone, oh, fuck this, you're a lost cause, but I think the more we talk, the more we're okay with speaking out loud about things that we do, the more we admit to the fact that things are changing, and the more that we can also admit that sometimes we are hypocrites with the way that we speak, and the things that we do compared to the way that we speak. I know that I've done a lot of things. I've let guys get away with a lot of things if I'm dating them or something like that, because I want to carry on using them as a human dildo. Or because I like them, or because like you have different standards for different human beings because you are in love with them, or you have a certain attachment towards them. You let people get away with things. I have let some blokes get away with a lot of stuff because I'm like, I really like you, but also I've stood back and told a lot of men off in my time, and I am a hypocrite. I have.
You're a human being. That's
We're
what you
human,
are.
exactly. Humans are naturally hypocritical, and it's a lot of things that we just have to be okay with saying. We just have to be okay with there being certain rules now. You're not allowed to say these things in a workplace because that is unprofessional. We're no longer allowed to go in and grab them by the pussy because that is unprofessional. You're not allowed to. Women, you're not allowed to go in and grab men's cocks. Just straight up. You're not allowed to do that.
I think it was. I'm sorry. I think it was it's quite important that you said it was a grey area, because I think when you've got when you talk about ideas or movements or gaining rights for people, they usually come in waves. It's not always, you don't just get the whole thing, and it's not like, there we go, all done. It usually starts with political and fundamental rights. So in the early 1900s, the women finally got their rights to vote. They could go work. Then the second stage comes where it's like professionalism, getting equal pay, and by law anyway, it says you should be getting paid. And then the social side comes in. It's like the third wave, and the third wave is usually the trickiest wave, because they're starting to bring in feelings rather than it's written down on paper.
Yeah,
that's it.
None of this is law, right? Only I think it was a year. What was it? A year ago? Was it 2000 or was it 2018? Catcalling became illegal.
Yeah. So
2018.
Yeah, and not just with the laws. It's literally like you're saying. You can't say that, but you can't go, well, I'm going to put you in prison for that, or it's more about, think about what you're saying, because what you're saying is affecting other people. So it's more, this wave is the trickiest wave to deal with, and I think we need a bit more patience. As much as we don't want to wait too long, the patience side of it is the most important part, because people just aren't going to get it straight away, unfortunately.
No, they're not, and I don't like I said, I don't think everyone's going to get it sort of ever. That's why I think that I don't think there's always going to be, I mean, there are certain groups, right, called like there was some like ridiculous group of men who were just like, what about men's rights? And I'm like, you have them. There you go. There they are in law books. That's the thing that you have. And they're like, yeah, well, we can't be told what to do by women. It's like, if they are a police officer and you are drunk driving, yes, they can. But it is the same. There's lots of rules written down. There's catcalling become illegal. Does it still happen? Of course it does.
Yeah.
It's the same way that I think that if we could make things more intense, like I really do believe that things like catcalling and things like I forgot what I was going to say. I just think that these things, and upskirting as well, and all this other like weird stuff that you sort of experience but you can't quite catch, because it's like, was there CCTV there? Do you remember what this person looked like? Or it should become a hate crime. And I think that there should be certain laws put in place that just scare people into not doing it. I do believe that there should be a really heavy penalty for catcalling, because then they'll be like, oh, this isn't really in my best interest. Because it's like right now, if you're caught sunbathing in the street by a police officer, if you're over the age of 18, you get fined 30 quid. Tell people, if you get fined 250 quid, you're probably less likely to do it, right? So why don't we do that with stuff that will help equality. Why don't we do that with stuff like catcalling? I did have a hilarious catcall the other day where a bloke clearly chickened out when he honked his horn, and I looked at him and he just went,
yeah, he didn't know what to do.
I thought that was funny. Like, I wasn't offended by it. I was just like, that's hilarious.
He was like, I haven't made it this far yet.
Exactly. He wasn't expecting me to just turn around and have a look at them. Half the time I'm there just giving them the finger and I'm like, fuck you. And then there's a lot of times where I've just been told maybe I shouldn't wear what I'm wearing, or maybe I shouldn't go out wearing that because that doesn't fit your body type, often by women. And then there's other things where it's like, you're wearing a really short skirt. And I'm like, oh yeah, I did go out wearing a short skirt so that someone could finger me in a club. I remember why I did that. No, I went out wearing that short skirt because I look fucking good in that short skirt. And I feel confident. Fuck off telling me what to wear. That's a thing that gets me riled up. I watched my friend go through a really emotionally abusive relationship, and he controlled what she ate. He controlled what she wore out. She controlled her would tell the most ridiculous lies to her even after they broke up and stuff. And I was just so angry at him constantly that I couldn't be in the same room with him. He once told me that I couldn't eat a whole avocado because it's too fattening, and I was like, a whole avocado fits on 2 slices of toast. Piss off.
Yeah.
But these people exist. Like, people that do this exist. One of them runs fucking America. You know, like, it's bizarre that these things still happen, and we are in such an incredible position, people who live in England and sort of in the West, and a lot of the time, because you go to other countries and women have only just been allowed to drive in Saudi Arabia. That's only just happened. That happened a year ago. You know, it's things that it's just, I mean, you know, in parts of Brazil, women get their heads cut off for being adulterers, but that doesn't happen to men. And it's, I mean, there are standards out there that this is why I don't think I'll ever really be able to see it, but I can fight really, really hard for it while I'm alive, so that the future is better if we have a future past 2020.
Well, let's hope for a future past 2020. I've got a few plans for 2021.
2021 is going to be our year.
Yes, it is. This has been amazing, Eve. Was there any closing statements? If you want to shout out any of your Instagram or anything like that, please. The stage is yours.
I mean, if you want to see some funny feminist content, follow me on Instagram, Eve Perry _27. Also, I don't hate men. That's one thing I'm going to say. I don't hate them. But I will always educate, and I will always and be okay with changing, because that's only human. Also, if you really are determined that you know exactly who you are, then you do not know who you are. I will never say I know exactly who I am, because I will constantly change, and I will be okay with it.
Very well.
Carry on changing, carry on listening, carry on learning. Ask questions. Don't be scared to ask feminist questions because you think you're going to get yelled at. Sometimes you might do, because you might have a really bad view that needs to change. Just don't resist it. Just let it happen, please, so we can be equal. It's not going to do you anything. Like, it's not going to be bad for you guys. You're gonna carry on having the same pay. We're just going to also have the same pay. Wow.
Absolutely. And Ghazi, you got anything you want to say to finish?
Oh, I thought this was a great little conversation. I can't wait to upload this one. Where can they find you, Will, on Instagram?
Will Hawkins Coaching.
And you can find me at Ghazi.92. And this has been one of the best episodes, in my opinion. So thank you very much, Eve.
Thanks for having me. It's been really great conversation.
Pleasure.
I haven't socialised in so long.
It has been a struggle socialising, hasn't it? All right. Well, thank you very much from the Big Drill, guys. We shall see you guys very soon. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Will.
And I'm Ghazi.
And thanks for tuning in to The Big Drill. You can also find us on these platforms here. make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can find him on Insta.
Ghazi.92.
And me, Will Hawkins Coaching. The links are in the description. And until the next time we drill deep, goodbye.
Bye.